Many fans who are in the show.
Hello and welcome back, disc golf enthusiasts from around the world, for this exciting conclusion of the MPO Konopiście Open coverage. We are bringing you final round back 9 at the beautiful and historic Franz Ferdinand disc golf course, where sparks are flying and a lot of these players are left with 9 holes to be crowned Konopiście champion. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Elias the Kid Luukkonen.
Thank you, Connor. Nice to be here. And as we see the scores, Niklas with an absolutely scorching hot 6 under front 9 again. Pretty much the hottest front 9 you can see in the scores. Daniel and Paul having a bit of a slower start, especially Paul, who has dropped his way into a tie for second after leading Daniel by 2 strokes before the round. After that, Jakub and Hjalmar Fredriksson, a young player from Sweden, as we hop on to hole 10.
This is a par 3 at 112 meters, also softly downhill, playing a little bit less. You have this double mando to hit between these 2 trees where you want to catch a late fade with the forehand or maintain your turnover with the backhand. You definitely can play either, so you can lean on your strengths and try to secure your birdie here on hole 10.
Yeah, the double mando on this hole is pretty much the only thing that makes this hole difficult. If you somehow miss the double mando, you will have to proceed to the drop zone. That's close to the mando there. As we see Paul lining up his putt for a bit. We saw him miss from inside the circle on the last hole, front 9. He needs to really fix that on the back 9 if he wants to have a chance for the title. As we see Niklas pushing a straight to fading forehand under the branches, getting through the mando, but a little bit short and right. He really wanted to push that more forward and a bit more Anheuser angle of the hand.
Daniel playing the roller here. It was a common line before the double mandos were put into play. Now a rare line, considering that it shapes a little bit harder, but he spins out just long of the basket. I think about 12 or 13 meters remaining back uphill for him. And he leaned on that line in round 2 as well. Not the most traditional line, but he's trying to make it work, as we see Jakub with an amazing forehand, gets the full skip and flare up to, I believe, just outside bullseye.
That's a great shot from Jakub, and once again showing off that Anheuser release with an overstable disc, both backhand and forehand. And Paul, surprisingly, even though he has a great forehand shot, opting to go with the backhand and hits the high branches there off the mando tree. He hasn't missed the mando or anything, but that's certainly not the drive he was looking for. He's quite a ways out for the birdie. Paul having his go-to caddy, Jonas. He's had a lot of success with the particular caddy. Unfortunately, just missing the putt from 20 meters. Great run, good height, but just fading out early.
And Niklas here on 10, currently with a 7-stroke lead. Oh, finds the right side, but not enough chains to stick it. Really close there. And although he doesn't need it, I'm sure he wanted it.
Yeah, at this point, Niklas really just needs to stay out of his own head. Hopefully, play as well as possible. Get some satisfaction out of this round. Daniel barely missing from circle 2. It was a great looking run. And Jakub with the closest drive, getting the easy birdie on this hole 10. Only birdie on the card. Very surprising, since it's certainly not one of the more difficult holes on the course.
And to be honest, I'm surprised to see both Paul and Daniel not move to that forehand line off the tee. Paul bringing the branches into play, much more common with the backhand as it requires more height to sustain the turnover and get the shape. So you see Niklas there for a 3, and Daniel as well, going for the roller again. A nice variety of lines shown by the lead card.
Yeah, Daniel's a very, very talented roller thrower. He has that insanely flippy disc that he uses for these control rollers. And so, not a big surprise, but certainly you could see him going for the forehand there.
Our players will walk to hole 11. As the holes remaining begin to run out, every birdie will matter. This par 4 sits at 261 meters. You want a good drive to flex through this gap and pass just beyond the 150-meter banner, leaving you with a wide open upshot to a very protected green. You see this enormous guardian tree on the right with an incredibly low ceiling. A lot of players will opt to try and go under or through it. You can also swing it around here on the left as the drone flies with the big power forehand. A lot of ways to try and attack this heavily guarded green, although very difficult to park your second shot. The 3 you really have to work for.
Yeah, that's certainly true, and especially the approach really making this hole difficult. The drive is quite simple. Just throw your slightly understable distance driver towards the left side trees and hopefully turn to the fairway and then fade as far as possible. As we see Jakub trying to go for that intended line, just a little bit low and left. That was a bit of an early release there, I believe.
We see our leader, Niklas, on the tee, going out that left side, and as the understability kicks in, begins to turn, but a little bit too late finding that turn. He kicks underneath those branches. Still some good distance, but will be an awkward, obstructed angle to continue down the fairway.
We saw a huge drive from Daniel yesterday on this particular hole, going for the same sort of distance here for sure, but just fading out early. But you can really see that huge power he has on the backhand, even with such a high line, able to go around the branches there. It looks like Paul is also pumping it up. Maybe a little bit of frustration from his score so far on the round. And wow, that is an absolutely massive drive. Only about 65 to 70 meters to the basket from there.
Yeah, that is, as you mentioned, potentially taking out some frustrations. He well cleared the 150-meter banner. That was probably a 160, maybe even 165-meter shot from Paul. And we see Jakub now, fortunate to have an open line. Shapes the Anheuser release. He's trying to crash through the branches here. A very viable option if you throw a fast-speed disc on the right side. And he fires through, even going long.
Yeah, that's a great play. We see many players on this hole trying to either crash through, as you said, or just below the very low branches of the bunker tree. Niklas has a tough position here under the left side of the fairway, having to go with a very steep Anheuser angle there. Actually goes for the roller from the knee. So showing off that technical talent he has with the disc, able to put it in the middle of the fairway with decent distance from that position. Still not a gimme approach though, so maybe this could be the opportunity for these other guys to get some strokes on Niklas.
Daniel, though, also contending with a branch in his way. Throws just before it, clipping a leaf. Spins out a touch early, as you saw. Some awkward footing and an incomplete throwing line. He comes up just short of that tree as well, and as you said, still not easy work from there. It's such a small gap that you need to hit to go under, and I think they're too far right to go around it.
Yeah. Although Paul is still trying to go very high with the forehand, hopefully trying to stall it out towards the basket, but goes too long, and that is one of the toughest roughs you will find on the course. If he's inside the bush there, he's really gonna have no look at the putt and hopefully just able to pitch up under the basket. And Niklas also looking high, going with an overstable approach disc here. Hopefully trying to control the distance a little bit better than Paul did. As he does, that's a perfect approach there.
Amazing Spikeheiser forehand. Not only is that rough difficult to throw out from, but it is also some of the few potential on this course for lost disc. Daniel there firing through the branches. Good on him to get out the back and position himself for a short putt for par. They will need to find Paul's disc now.
You can see the caddy Jonas going in with the bag, giving Paul the disc that he needs. Paul having to go really high Spikeheiser from there. Might have even been a spike forehand Anheuser, judging by the spin that it had when it hit the ground. And he's going to have a difficult putt for the par from here. Although he does make it, that's an important one to have, you know, after the very difficult and slow starts from Paul. Not taking the bogey on this hole is crucial for the end of the round.
but also likely off such an amazing tee shot, he would have liked to find that birdie. Gave himself the opportunity. That is a really nice putt there from Jakub from those bushes. You saw as he walks through just how dense that is, so good on him to find his second birdie already on the back nine, hole 11. Good putt. Daniel now.
It's certainly one of the more difficult birdies on the entire course, but especially on the back nine. I think the back nine is possibly tied or even more scoreable of the two nines. We mostly see the longest birdie streaks on this back nine. Maybe not on this hole 11 or the next hole 12, but after that, all the holes are very birdieable, and it's really setting up for a very birdieable finish. As we see 3 pars and a lone birdie from Jakub, making up some strokes on this lead card. He's already climbed his way into the second place, tied for second on this card.
They will then walk to hole 12, a par 4 at 201 meters. You want your tee shot to shape through this initial tunnel and move right the entire way, and maybe even horseshoe back around for the really understable mid-range throwers. Anywhere near this FPO which you see in your frame is an ideal location, allowing you to cross over this water carry on your second. Although technically it's not too demanding of a shot, this is a high risk of lost disc, and any branches that you catch on your way will spin you out into the water. You want to attack this island green, blast on into the hill, and slide up.
That's truly a great backstop on this hole. Really setting up even for a possible run for the eagle if somebody gets the perfect drive to the sweet spot. And Jakub has been on this hole, goes with a rare understable disc. We really not common that we see Jakub going with a straight to understable disc. Still Anheuser release. This looks a little bit wide. He's had the same problem in the previous rounds, just pushing it too far forward before moving to the right. It's a very specific angle and line that you have to throw on this hole. Not very common to see somebody hit it absolutely perfectly and getting to the sweet spot.
And Niklas, despite leading the tournament and some really strong performances, also had trouble with the tee shots in both rounds 1 and 2 here, pushing it too straight. He has made the correction, and as that gets a full glide, an amazing spot. That is a perfect shot. You cannot throw it better.
Yeah, that was absolutely beautiful. Really turning it over and throwing it pretty hard and high. I feel like that is important for getting it all the way to the sweet spot. Daniel going with a more rare shot to reach the perfect sweet spot, but he's in a good position there, going with a low skipping forehand. I'm sure he's gonna have a good look at the basket from there. Paul with the backhand, trying to hold it over. This looks like a pretty good angle as long as it does not fade out too far at the end. Although it looks like he did hit some branches on the gap. You can really see how tight the gap is from this angle from the sweet spot.
Extremely narrow. Our players who walk to their lies, a lot of them who are in an imperfect position will simply lay up before the water carry, as we see from Jakub here. He wants to just sit this down right at the edge to get over stress-free. We'll see Paul likely doing the same, although he's known to be getting aggressive from compromising circumstances.
Yeah, this looks very aggressive. Trying to go through all of the right side trees, throwing it incredibly hard, and he does stay in bounds, hitting a couple of trees on the way, going pretty much full power with a low shot through the woods. That was a impressive shot, and he's actually going to have a long look at the birdie there.
A crazy line. That is incredibly thick, and he had a super low ceiling to contend with. Any tree kick would have risked going in the water. Daniel now, from a great position off the forehand, throws a laser beam to the basket, skips it just a little bit long. Really nice. Looks like a lone howl, I believe.
Yeah, that's a very nice shot from Daniel. As I think he's looking at the scores here, he's a player that likes to see what other players are doing on the course, both for knowing how he has to play these final holes, but also just out of interest. Niklas actually pushed it a little bit even long off the sweet spot with his incredible drive, having the pinched angle, having to go with the Anheuser forehand. Unfortunately, just fading out, but not OB, and he's also going to have a very long look at the basket from there.
Jakub here, getting an overstable shot out there on Anheuser, crashes the hill, and he will also sit it down nicely just by the basket, putting for birdie. This is one that averaged, I believe, over 5 each day, so more than a stroke over par on average. Really good 3 to find. And a beautiful gallery enjoying the sunny weather. We see Paul up first off his scramble line, trying to translate into birdies. He just cannot connect on the green today. And as he will be tapping in another par, any birdies here will continue to overtake him, especially for Jakub and Daniel, all of them at 22 under. It's a significant moment. We see Niklas there with a short upshot.
Yeah, Niklas for sure just fine with the par there, with the huge lead that he has already. Daniel, very important putt. We saw a couple of missed putts from inside the circle from him on the front nine, able to clean that up there. It's a decent looking stroke, a little bit high in the middle of the basket. Jakub putting downhill, actually kind of towards the OB. I'm sure that he's not thinking about it though, as he bangs it in the middle. Yeah, it's certainly, this hole is something, a hole that you would like to birdie, but par here really does not hurt.
Requires an amazing tee shot to position yourself to birdie. The shots after that are fairly easy considering, but very technical hole. Can very easily find trouble as well. Hole 13. A par 3 at 108 meters, one of the more attackable holes as well. You have this initial gap to throw out of with branches on the right and the left, catching anything which does not hit the gap purely. It slopes left to right as well as softly downhill. And of course, as they do here, if the hole leans to a little bit on the easier side, they give that elevated basket to contend with, an extra added element of difficulty on the green.
Yeah, it's a great elevated basket, really making this putting on this hole just slightly more nerve-wracking, especially if you're on the left side of the basket, because then the green is both sloping behind the basket and also you have the elevated basket. As we see Daniel going with a flip-up forehand, a very strong shot for him, unfortunately just leaving it a little bit low there.
Was significantly nose down the entire way, didn't have the room to fly. We see Jakub here turning this over around the branches as he looks to have it pan out. It does exactly that, lands flat, slides with the hill, and he's, I think, just within the circle.
Yeah, that's a decent shot from Jakub. It's certainly another hole that you would like to be parked on, both for the elevated basket, but also because it's quite a simple hole for players of this level. As we see Niklas just a little bit left, but a very good angle and very good distance control. He's still barely inside the circle there, and should not be a problem for a putter of his caliber.
Paul here, looking also like he's trying to play the putter turnover, does not get the turn required, fades out left into that tree, and will likely have just an approach, although he is not one to leave putts on the green. He may be one of the few people who will continue to run that on an elevated basket from deep C2 going downhill because he knows he needs it.
Yeah, and especially in this situation, having a bit of a frustrating round, I'm sure Paul is going to run it. And Daniel there, just laying up for the par. Let's see what Paul does. Just pulling it to the right, unfortunately. And you can see the slope away and the elevated basket, leaving him with almost a circle's edge look for the par there. As we see Jakub making a great putt uphill in the middle of the basket. That looked like a very solid stroke there. And a great start to the back nine. Even with a slightly slower front nine of 2 under, he's already taken 3 birdies on this back nine.
And Paul just low now on the comebacker. We saw Jakub quite literally running away with his disc there, as he now will have a small lead over Paul. Niklas continues to apply the heat here on this lead card action. He is in a world of his own right now at 30 under, still with very birdieable holes to go. He is already averaging 10 under per round.
Yeah, that's incredible scoring by Niklas, and some people might have even predicted before the tournament that 10 under per round could be the winning score for the entire event. Looks like Niklas has a chance to get well past that with 5 quite birdieable holes left.
Our players will move on to hole 14, a par 4 at 256 meters and a very attackable hole for this lead card caliber. You want to shape a tee shot through this gap here, fading between these two trees. You can opt for a full hyzer if you're comfortable with the distance, or a soft flex. You then break out into this undulating fairway to the left side, fighting uphill towards the green. You can really blast a drive far and try to crash it hard.
Yeah, this is one of the easier holes on the back nine, even though it is quite long with a distance of 256 meters. It's truly just a regular drive with something that fades consistently to the left, and then the approach is also pretty easy with a good backstop behind the basket. I'm sure all of these players will be disappointed if they miss to get a chance for the birdie on this hole, as we see Jakub going with his signature, trying to put a little bit of anhyzer on the disc. Unfortunately, putting it flat towards the left side, and just crashes the corner trees on the left. And he's likely to have a very difficult to no look to the basket.
Niklas here playing the width using just a pure hyzer angle, almost up to flat but not quite, keeping it on one angle. Amazing distance and precision as he fights around that corner and is now in a great spot to attack.
Yeah, that's pretty much a perfect shot. About 110 meters from there to go. Daniel showing off that backhand power he's got, a lot of speed on the disc, and gets a huge skip to the left, really opening up more of a hyzer approach to the green, which I'm sure Daniel prefers over the straight shot. That's a perfect drive.
Paul also going for the one angle hyzer, gets it out wide, tons of pace, finds a similar skip, and he is right up there near Daniel. All 3 of those drives in great positions. Only Jakub now with a slight scramble still. We'll see what he's left with. You can find a few sneaky gaps. He's actually fought out the back. Great result, as it's fairly common you can be caught up inside if you hit where he did. Had enough speed to fight through. He still has a chance to birdie this year.
It looks like Jakub had to take his run-up from the right because the tree was blocking his regular straight run-up, having to go with more of an anhyzer angle. Unfortunately, not quite turning it over all the way to the basket, so he has a very obstructed look from the bush on the left side of the basket. We can see Niklas has thrown great approaches on this hole, especially last round, going with the FD3 again. A little bit wide, but that's still well inside the circle there. That's a decent result, although I'm sure he wanted to get it a little bit closer. It's one of the easier approaches on the course.
But well within his range, I'm sure. Paul also in a similar position, playing the big swinging hyzer, crashes the bullseye and settles soft. That will most surely be a birdie for him. Another bounce back after a bogey on 13. You see, even with a great shot, he's frustrated, understanding that the holes are running out.
And Daniel with incredible drive here, able to go with just the spike hyzer. Very easy shot for him, and almost giving it a bit of a run for the eagle there. Settles inside the bullseye. That's a perfect way to play this hole. You can really see he's got that strong backhand hyzer game perfectly in check.
And Jakub wasn't quite scrambling off the first shot, but is certainly scrambling here, trying to fight through a small gap in the trees. He gets slapped down and will be left with a short putt for par. We see Niklas for birdie to continue extending his lead. Incredible.
Yeah, for another birdie, and really it's pretty clear that he doesn't need birdies anymore. He could just par out and at least win this card. We don't know what other cards are doing at this time, so I think Niklas probably feels the most comfortable with just getting as many birdies as possible and hopefully extending the lead on this card and hopefully on other cards as well.
And absolutely, I think just because you can power out doesn't mean that you should alter the game plan. Niklas is here to birdie every hole that he can, and I think we'll see him do just that. Although if he is given a choice between a conservative or risky throw, I think he'll definitely lean towards the side of safety. But he's here to play, man.
Yeah, certainly, and not only for the win, but also just for proving that he can play on the highest level.
The legacy and history of this course. We have history in the making here. Our lead card walks to hole 15. A par 4 at 228 meters, downhill the entire way, as well as sloping softly right to left. You really can just throw a straight shot more than a hyzer off the tee, as it will naturally move left with the slope. You then are left with a downhill straight shot towards this green in what is effectively a tunnel shot. 2 straight shots, good control required, especially going downhill the entire way.
Yeah, for sure, and this hole sets up for potentially a huge drive, especially knowing that we have Daniel on the card with a big backhand, and all of these guys really good with angles. Controlling the angles really important here for distance, as we see Niklas going with an understable disc. That looks like the perfect line, just turning it over slightly to the right, fading back towards the left side of the fairway. He's gonna have a relatively easy and short approach from there. That's exactly what he wanted. Let's see if Daniel can get even more distance.
Even if you don't need it, especially on this hole, it can make your upshot easier, but Daniel, trying to bite off a little bit too much, finds the left side branches and will be left with a long, awkward look to the green.
Paul actually taking a very long run up here. Probably looking forward to absolutely crushing this drive, although he had a little bit of a heavy hyzer angle on it, hitting some branches, fading to the left side of the fairway. That's going to be a very difficult approach from there. He's going to potentially have to throw a very wide hyzer or a wide forehand anhyzer to miss all of those branches.
Jakub shaping the anhyzer release as he is known to do. We see his disc fighting back really strongly now, right in the middle of the fairway. That is also a fantastic shot. You can see that they really are just throwing a straight-looking shot that then fades left naturally with the slope, and anything out in the fairway with the distance they're throwing at is a good position. Daniel now incredibly pinched off, going for an anhyzer forehand.
Very good angle there. Keeps it low and turning the whole way. Almost skipping in for the eagle. Incredible forehand angle control there. Really showing off that touch that he's got. Actually, Paul's caddy even giving him a little pat on the back with the water bottle. I know they're great friends, both from the Tampere area.
That's a nasty shot. He really had no look there. And not only did he get it close, but even gave it a run. Incredible forehand touch from Daniel. Paul now in a similar position, although slightly further up the fairway, shaping his out, does not flex it out at the end, held the turn the whole way, and that will leave him with a tester. Niklas here.
Going with the sensei again. He's been throwing this disc really good on this hole and also on hole 13 for the entire weekend. Another almost a park job, leaving just a 5-meter formality for him at this point. Niklas's caddy really having an easy job, just carrying the discs. Not much advice needed for him.
Jakub, from also an ideal position way down the fairway, is able to throw that low-speed disc on pure hyzer and settles it nice and soft. That will be Jakub and Anttila most likely securing their birdies. Daniel and Paul will have slightly longer putts, but still both with a look.
Yeah, especially Paul from probably from circle 2. Let's see if he can finally make a circle 2 putt here. Crowd is waiting. Leaves it low again. He's really had the problem of leaving his circle 2 putts short this round. It's a very surprising error, since usually he's a very aggressive putter.
And a beautiful angle here as you see the crowd giving claps to Daniel. That is an incredible birdie given his drive. He had a very awkward angle, a ton of distance remaining, and he shaped it to perfection. Really nice as he puts himself to 25 under, sitting in second place right now. This is Niklas for his birdie, and he finds it.
That's a great birdie from Niklas once again. No surprises there. And Daniel actually also yesterday had an incredible approach on this hole. So not really getting off the tee that well on this hole, but having those incredible approaches as Jakub gets the birdie. Also, and Paul unfortunately not completing the star frame for the card here. I'm sure the gallery would like to see some chains ringed for the tradition of Middle Europe.
They will continue to hole 16, the final par 5. This is a 302-meter hole with a tunnel shot off the tee. You want to fight through any of these available gaps. As the drone flies is the largest and most traditional gap. You then break out into an open fairway sloping softly left to right, really allowing you to bite off a ton of distance. As you then get towards this low ceiling, the fairway bends first to the right and then back to the left. You want to battle underneath these branches, oftentimes finding a skip on your way to the green. You can see that there is mud, dry grass, wet grass, all of the above there. So trying to time and place your connection for that skip is very important, and even could be considered an eagleable hole with two amazing shots. We saw Roni, I believe, yesterday with a 20-meter putt or so for 3.
Yeah, it's in theory it's very eagleable, although I'm sure all of these players will be fine getting the birdie. Niklas barely pushing it to the right of the gap, but he gets through the final branches, and that's just perfect position there. This hole is really mostly about the drive. If your drive is in great position, you're gonna have a relatively easy time getting the birdie from there. Daniel also going for a similar line, hopefully not skipping too long as there are many low ceiling branches there. Looks like he's kind of battling the low ceiling there and potentially does not have much of a run-up with the tree behind the disc.
Jakub now had a very clean back 9 so far. This one is bleeding out a little bit left, but as he moves towards that open side, that is actually not out of bounds. That is simply a rope to control the spectators. That's a good spot to be, believe it or not. May look like it's off the fairway, but really opens up a lot of distance on his second. A fine spot.
Yeah, that's completely fine. He has much more distance to the basket from there compared to, for example, Niklas. And Paul actually going for, well, for sure not going for a similar spot, but skipping to a similar spot. He might have those spectator walls or fences to contend with, as he does. This is going to be a very difficult shot to put it over the fence, although he does not seem to find it very difficult. Just a regular looking throw from Paul, although he does turn it over to the right side woods. Not really ideal position after 2.
Difficult to get an ideal hyzer angle release with those things in the way. And Jakub actually also significantly blocked off in his walk-up, needing to shape the forehand and hyzer. Unclear if that was air shot or roller, but he'll try to bite off as much distance as possible. Niklas here. Anything that gets past that tree on the right into the fairway is a great spot. And
looks
this
like
is
a very
huge.
good angle. Yeah, that's a great angle control there. Going towards the left side of the fairway with an understable disc, turning it over all the way to the ground, and he's only got about 50 to 60 meters left from there. Looks like a very easy birdie for Niklas.
Daniel now. A lot of snap on that as he's looking to have this hold the turn. He flips the catch cam. And he fades out a little bit early, but that left side is quite forgiving, and he'll be left with a short forehand up to the green. We see Jakub now. He's going to really need to match the grade of this hill, both in the anhyzer and the height. He'll want this to be nose down, turning over, and then find some fade and skip at the end.
A really good looking shot. Perfectly putting it under the low ceiling, and he's still outside the circle, I believe, but that was an incredible shot from there. Really precise, especially with the height. And Paul from the right side of the fairway, having to go even lower, hopefully getting a bit of a skip at the end, although not having the hyzer angle to really have an opportunity for the skip there. He's going to be a long ways out for the birdie.
See Niklas here. This is his third shot. He just wants to put this one close. The only danger for him is OB long. Once again leaning on that sensei. Puts it up there. Absolutely no problems at all. Just 6 meters out for his birdie. As he has put together 3 in a row, you see him having a good time now. An incredible performance from that young man.
Yeah, Niklas really showing the whole entire field what he's made of during this weekend. And he has a history of playing good on this course. He actually won the European Championships in 2021 on this same course. And he was shooting similar scores back then, so no surprises from Niklas during this weekend. As we saw Daniel pitching up inside the circle for the birdie. Jakub, unfortunate high release there with the putt, catching the band. Daniel gets the birdie there. That's very important for him, pushing him another 1 stroke below par, really solidifying his position in the tournament.
And in second place, as he'll now have a small lead over Jakub at 24. Niklas finds yet another birdie, 10 under so far in the round, with 2 birdieable holes remaining. Could be looking to match his 12. Rather, he shot 11 in round 1. Was it 12 in round 2, Elias?
Yes, 12 in round 2, so he has a chance to match that incredible 12 under. And 2 quite, as you said, very birdieable holes, and I'm sure he's not letting off on those 2 holes, even though he very well could with the current situation of the tournament.
What a statement. As they move to hole 17, a par 4 at 175 meters, very significantly uphill the entire way. You do have OB lining the left that will punish anything 2 nose up or underturned. A lot of players will opt for the big Anheuser backhand or maybe even the forehand to ensure they avoid that. And on your second shot, you want to battle around this last guardian tree where the basket is tucked away on the right. I think for a lot of these guys, it will be a blasting backhand up the hill and then a forehand approach into the green.
Yeah, very true, and especially if you can somehow land with the drive, if you can land near the left side OB, you'll have a much easier time approaching the green. Very good course design here, putting the OB near the perfect landing spot. But I'm sure many of these players are playing it a little bit safe, turning their drive over towards the right, as Niklas does. He's on the fairway there, quite a ways out from the basket, but very reachable either with I would think he's going to go with the backhand, either mid-range or fairway driver, something understable.
Daniel here, getting a hyzer release with a very understable disc, really putting some power on it, completes a full flight. That is huge distance.
Yeah, big distance there, and Daniel more comfortable with the forehand approach. For sure going to be going with a forehand and hyzer, a hyzer there. As we see Jakub maybe a little bit scared of the left side OB, pulling it to the right with the Anheuser. We'll see what he's got from there.
And Paul now at 22 under. He may not be finding these podium positions with only 2 holes left, but still looking to play some solid golf. That is a great drive, picture perfect. Also probably playing the forehand approach.
Yeah, that was a decent drive there. Very good chance for the birdie. Even though this averages as one of the more difficult holes on the course, really for these top players, they're looking forward to birdie this one. It's just 2 regular shots, although for Jakub, this shot has to be spectacular for him to reach the basket, as it is.
Incredible, shaping just around those branches cleanly, ensuring enough Anheuser to hold the turn, but not too much to cut roll as he settled nice and soft. That was an incredible display of angle control on a very tough green. This is also a hole that you can have some nasty rollaways on up there by the basket.
For sure, as we saw from Paul in round 1, as he was putting for birdie but took 5. Niklas going with a very understable fairway driver there. Another just perfect shot. He's within 5 meters of the basket. His game is looking solid as ever, and I'm sure he's really happy about it going into the later part of the season from now on. And Paul with a decent approach inside the circle there.
Daniel now going for that high spiking hyzer forehand, drops it right in there in bullseye, making this hole look particularly easy for one that is really not so much on the course. Nicely done as Daniel now has put together a really nice back nine, looking for his 5th birdie here through the first 8 of the back nine, and Jakub Semerád securing 7 under for the round so far with a birdie on 17.
Yeah, Daniel really just looking forward to keeping that 2nd place to himself. It's a great result in a tournament of this caliber, as we see Paul getting birdie in the basket. A bit of a slow back nine for him, as was the front nine as well. Really, I know he's going to be working hard after this tournament to hopefully play better next week. As we see Niklas lining up a putt to go 11 under on the round. Incredible score. Just very clean play, not making any big mistakes.
No, and it looks fairly effortless for him, which is an incredible thing on a course like this. Daniel as well, just tapping in his birdie, ensuring that he stays ahead of Jakub. We are going to the final hole, folks.
Final hole. The winner is pretty much clear, but let's see what happens for the 2nd place.
Hole 18, a par 3 136 meter hole downhill the entire way. You have a pretty generous height, but not so much width, especially as you move towards the green. It narrows. You want to avoid all of these branches on the left and right and control your nose angle to ensure it is forwards pushing the entire way. You don't want to find too much fade at the end of the flight.
Yeah, most players are looking forward to throwing either a straight putter or a straight mid-range on this hole, just to control the angle. You really want to be going straight for the whole entire way. Very common to see players going with something a little bit too stable or a little bit too high and fading left at the end. Niklas not looking to do that. He's going with, once again, going with the trusty sensei of his. Hopefully trying to keep it straight for the entire flight.
He gets it on a hyzer release with a lot of height, flips it up to flat, and brings it down into the green. Super clean flight, doesn't touch a thing, and he is just outside the circle with 1 putt remaining.
Yeah, that's a great shot, and really up to Niklas whether he wants to potentially make it from there or just lay up for the easy win. As we see Daniel going for something slightly more stable, hammering it on a slight anhyzer angle. You can see the fast green there, and the fast shot also. You know, he had a lot of speed on it, really landing next to the basket but skipping well long. But he has a chance for the birdie as well.
And almost a run from Daniel. I think it wasn't really meant to be. I'm sure he wants to put this one as close as possible, but a really nice shot there, as we're commonly seeing from him. Jakub here playing a hyzer release on the right side, trying to flip it up to flat. He doesn't quite get it, pushing forwards at the end, and he will fade out left. And he's left with a circle 2 putt uphill for his birdie.
Still very makeable there, and let's see if Paul can make some fireworks on this final hole. I wouldn't be surprised if he gave it a pretty good run for the ace. As he gives it good height and good speed, I believe going with the mid-range there. That certainly looks like a very aggressive run, at least towards the green, but fading far left, and he's out of position for the birdie there on this final hole.
And there is no significant OB anywhere on hole 18, as we see some hurdles practice from Niklas, jumping the banners, full of energy. He is really putting on an incredible performance this entire weekend, especially in this final round where we see even some of the best players struggling to maintain the pace. He has done nothing other than put on the pressure. Paul now from circle 2, an honest bid from an awkward spot.
Yeah, very disappointing round for Paul, I'm sure, but we'll expect him to come back from this, as we see Jakub hopefully finishing with the great birdie here. Unfortunately, a good effort just hitting the top band there. I'm sure he's also just alright with his play this weekend. Not really going for the, well, absolutely going for the win, not really able to be that close to winning, but still a good finish in this high-level tournament. as we see Niklas lining it up. He looks to want to make this putt from 11 meters for the win.
Of course he does. He is not a man to lay up, ready to put on a show here for the crowd. Just like that, so confident, Niklas Anttila, your Konopiště Open 2023 champion. 2 consecutive wins at 2 consecutive tournaments on this beautiful and historic course. Absolutely incredible performance as he birdies out the remaining 6 holes of this back 9. As you see the camaraderie from his card mates.
Incredible stuff. And you can see the celebration after he made the putt. You can see it really means much to him to win, as you said, win twice in a row on this iconic course of Europe. Really a phenomenal player, one of the most consistent players in Europe. Let's see if Daniel can finish with a great birdie here. Just low, unfortunately. Hopefully it stays close there with the roll. Just 5 meters left for the par there. And I believe this is for solo second place.
To secure his spot just behind Niklas. Daniel Davidsson, incredible performance, had a few struggles on the green, but incredible drives and statistically just one of the best throwers in the field this weekend.
Absolutely, and I believe Daniel actually was the best driver as when we look at strokes gained from tee to green. Jakub also with a decent 7 under finishing round. Not quite as hot as the first 2, but you can see he's happy about it. Finishing, I believe, 3rd in this tournament in front of the home crowd and a lot of support from him out here in Konopiště.
Presented by DISCMANIA, it's over. And we have the winner. And also a saying in Czech Republic, if the difference in between first and second is 7 and more strokes, we call it steamer, oparník. And this guy made it. He won by a steamer. Ladies and gentlemen, from Kuopio, Finland, Niklas Anttila, the champion!
Such a professional and so well positioned this season. Spent some time in the United States competing with the best in the world and comes back to Europe now with a complete skill set as you see him hoist that trophy. Just how much it means to him. Well done to Niklas Anttila.
Really well done. And I believe the first win of the season, we saw him come second in a Champions Cup, a major tournament in the US, competing with the best players in the world and able to get an incredible win in his first European event here. Big congratulations to Niklas Anttila. Fully deserved all of that lead and the win.
And thank you to the event organizers, volunteers, all of the people who put in the hard work to create such an amazing weekend here at the Konopište Castle.
Absolutely, as we look at the top 10, Niklas first, Daniel second, Hjalmar Fredriksson, actually a 15-year-old from Sweden, putting together a 10 under final round to push himself into the tied for 3rd place. Jakub Semerád also tied for 3rd, and Pekka Hyvönen, good friend of mine, 5th place, incredible finish. He's also only 17 years old. You can really see the young talent in Europe rising up.
Also hitting that 10 under round, some incredible performances across the field. We hope you enjoyed this exciting coverage. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to support us, and we'll see you at the next stop of the PDGA Euro Tour.
Thank you, Connor, and see you guys in the next one.